You know, if you want to win in fantasy baseball, it takes a couple of things. First of all, some luck, all right, granted. Number two, you have to be active, staying on top of things, waiver wire, but also making smart moves in the trade market. And you've got to be aggressive, right? Don't just sit back and wait for an offer to come to you. You've got to sometimes trade away a player that is actually performing really well in order to get something back. Look, in my mind, no player is off limits. If you can actually sell high, do it. I take my own advice just in our Endgame league alone. This year, I've traded CJ Abrams, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, and I just dealt one of my favorite players, Riley Green, because I'm trying to constantly improve my team. I suggest you do the same. So here's some sell high candidates that I know when I say their names, you're going to be like, really? Trust me, I'll explain why. And of course, if you're selling high, the best time to sell high is when they're at their peak. The guy who's coming off a super hot week. Why not throw out former superstar Christian Yelich? Now, when a player like Yelich has a week like he's had, where he's hitting bombs, stealing bases, he's doing everything that we remember from several years ago. Remind you, several years ago when he was MVP and the best player in fantasy. And yeah, we think, oh, this is Christian Yelich. This is what he does. But come on, when's the last time he actually put together a full season like this? And just to clarify, over this past week alone, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, a steal thrown in there, and hitting almost 500. I mean, yeah, it's easy to just, get these flashbacks. Remember when this guy was going deep every other game, right? He was carrying the Brewers. And look, the Brewers still a good team, and Yelich is still a good hitter. I'm not saying that he's completely dusted. This is a mirage or anything, but can he keep it up? Let me tell you what I'm buying, what I'm not buying. Okay, the stolen bases, fine, not worried about that. Okay, he's probably going to get to over 20 because the Brewers just run so much, and he still has a little bit of speed. Okay, so he'll get you steals, fine. The batting average, it's not going to be among the league's best, and in fact, it's getting worse. Right now, he's hitting in the 230s, and yes, that should go up. I mean, he hit 315 last year. We're going to meet in the middle somewhere here, right? The average will go up, but let's not get carried away. I don't think he's hitting 300 this year based on the way he started. Part of the reason that his strikeout rate is the worst since 2020. I think he's maybe sacrificing a little bit of contact for that power, and that's why we've seen the home run spike, but the average dip. All right, now about the home runs. Okay, he has power. That's never been the question, but can he make the most of it? Remember with Yelich, as a Marlin, starting out his career, we didn't see that power, and not just because he was stuck in Miami, but because he was like a ground ball, severe ground ball hitter, and he finally corrected that. The launch angle, we saw him start to hit at least a few more fly balls, right? He never really became more of a fly ball hitter, just a little bit more, and that's all it took, right? He unlocked that launch angle, and that's what it took. But also, it took a little bit of luck because this is a guy who doesn't really square up the ball that often. And what it took was a home run to fly ball rate in the mid 30s, which is extremely high for anybody. Granted, given that his fly ball rate itself is low, maybe this makes a little more sense with him. But come on, at some point it has to go down. Look, his two best years ever of his career, those careers 2018 and 19, right? One of which his MVP season, he had a home run to fly ball rate of 32 and 35%. And this year, it's at 36%. And he's really not hitting more fly balls. It's 23%. In fact, his ground ball rate is getting close to a career high, and that's 60%. A guy like Yelich should not be hitting it to the ground that often, but that's just basically reverting to what he did to start his career. And so, what we've seen for his career trajectory, it's pretty much a bell curve and it's heading the wrong way. Now, I like the fact that he's tapping into his power as much as possible, but let's just be honest, it's going to slow down. The batting average will not be near 300. This home run barrage, I think, is just making for a nice sell high window. That's all I'm going to say. And of course, the injury history here, the risk, we know what it is. We know last year missed so much time. It's not even his back right now. He's already complaining about a hand thing. He's fighting through it. Give him credit for that. But all told, I'm going to flip him in exchange for a young player with upside that could also do similar things. You know what? Give me his teammate, Jackson Churio. I still feel like there's a buy low window on him. Or if you'd rather have speed and average as opposed to power, maybe Jaron Duran, who's coming off a pretty cold streak himself, and now there's all these rumors about getting traded. I think this is also a good time to swoop in and get a star player like him. A veteran who's coming off a really good month is Taylor Ward of the Angels. He powered up, went deep 10 times, and drove in 28 RBIs in May. While he's already starting to cool down, predictably, I still think this is the good time to try to flip him while you can because those season long stats look pretty gaudy. Keep in mind, last year, all season, which was Taylor Ward's best season, he had a total of 25 homers and 75 RBIs. Those were career highs for him, mainly because he actually stayed healthy the whole season, but also he finally tapped into his secret of launch angle success. Unlike Yelich, here's the thing that Taylor Ward doesn't do. Well, steal bases, there's that. But also, he's not going to hit for average. And this guy's regularly in the 250s. Ward getting you about a 250, 260 batting average, I think might be best case scenario. Okay, that's fine if he hits for 30 plus home runs. But even if he's on pace to surpass last year's career high, I'm not buying into it because he's also posting a career high 27% strikeout rate. And moreover, if you look even just last season, but also just the course of Ward's career, this is a super streaky hitter, right? Some guys just do this, whether it's going deep or collecting base hits or whatever, they just do it in bunches. And then you forget about it for a while, and then they come back. This is just what Ward is doing. And guess what? Now that he's on the tail end of this hot streak, this hot month, really, it's time to get out from under him. Give me a player who can give me similar success, more consistent, I think higher upside. And I think that actually you might be able to get a guy like Marcell Ozuna. Now, this doesn't come without risk because we've heard that Ozuna is playing through some sort of a hip tear. That sounds pretty scary, but apparently it's not bothering him. He just hit a home run a couple days ago, and his numbers overall are good. And he also got to a crazy hot start and has cooled down since last month. But look, with Acuna back and all things told, I think Ozuna will be totally fine the rest of the season. I would definitely rather have him than Ward, or I would even settle for like a Helio Ramos, who I feel still is pretty much undervalued and can help you across more than just the home run and RBI categories. The next sell high candidate I have in mind is Bo Bichette. And you might think, well, I mean, how high are we really selling here? It's not like he's been going crazy. And in fact, he's been lacking a lot of those counting stats, the home runs, the stolen bases, which is why I want to sell him. But I'll just tell you what, the expected stats tell you that his average and even his slugging should get better. He's actually underachieving. And if you look at how he's done over the past 100 plate appearances, he's trending upward. So while this seems like an odd fit for this video, let me tell you, I'm going to sell now while people still have optimism that there's more to come. I think Bichette's going to give you what he was always going to give you is batting average. I mean, he really should be hitting better, and he will be. The numbers suggest he might even get to 300. Okay, that's great. But what else? As of right now, got 7 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Yeah, there's not another level of power to tap into. He did flex some power a couple years ago, but he's struggled big time since then, and he is not really trying to lift the ball. This is kind of the opposite of Christian Yelich, who I mentioned. Look, he's not really a power hitter anyways, but I think we'll be lucky to get to 20 homers a year. That's fine. The stolen bases are just not going to be there. It's actually remarkable how Bichette has slowed down so much when he's still so young. I mean, Bichette's just 27 years old, should be in his prime, but his sprint speed when he first came into the league was in the 83rd percentile, and this year it's in the 23rd percentile. And seriously, it's kind of shocking to me that he is not as fast as guys like Jorge Soler, a catcher like William Contreras, Jake Bowers. I mean, really. So what I think you're getting from Bichette is kind of a one-trick pony. He'll hit for average and just kind of be league average in the rest of those stats and actually below average in terms of speed. And again, Bo Bichette's got that name value attached, a legacy player, guy who had such promise his first couple years in the league and just like still waiting and clinging for something else to happen. I think that's it. I think what we see is what we're getting. Give me the guy who is going to actually produce more in those other categories. I'll take Zach Neto over Bo Bichette straight up. And I prefer Jacob Wilson, who you think, yeah, well, this is a guy who just hits for average. He's actually got a little bit more power in him than we're expecting, but also, you know what? The runs, the RBIs, I think will match Bichette, and his average will be far above Bichette. All right, let me throw out another name here, kind of one of those proof of concept ideas just to see what happens. Okay, so Jack Caglione. I told you to stash him weeks and weeks ago. I told you to pick him up last week and then again this week. All right, so you got him, and now what? You just sit back and watch him win Rookie of the Year, right? But what if one day after his major league debut, you could trade him to get a proven star player? Do you give up on the potential, right? The tremendous upside, all the hype that comes with having a guy that just rolled through the minors and is finally here to make his major league debut? Is he going to have a season like Corbin Carroll a couple years ago, Julio Rodriguez? Or is it going to be more like Jackson Holiday last year? There's no way we can say for sure how he's going to respond to major league pitching, right? Handling the full workload of a major league season because he hasn't done it before. So we'll just have to see what happens. But do you just hold on and hope that he breaks out, or do you take the known commodity? Well, the answer, of course, is it depends. Let me tell you though, right now, I love to do the research, and it actually entertains me to see some of the deals that take place in real fantasy leagues. Here's some of the players that have been traded straight up 1 for 1 for Jack Caglione just since the day he made his debut. Pitchers like Christopher Sanchez, Luis Castillo, hitters like Matt Olson, Corey Seager. So you stash Caglione, you've got him. But do you hold on and hope for that Rookie of the Year campaign? Or do you take a guy like Corey Seager? The answer is it really depends on the makeup of your roster, where you're at in the standings, what position do you need help in, all of that. There's so many variables. I can't give you a straight up answer. I'll tell you what, right now, honestly, if you offered me Matt Olson for Caglione, I'd probably pass because I feel like Caglione could just be a younger, better version of Olson. I'm not saying he's going to hit 40 home runs, but also I'm not completely sold on Olson the rest of this season. Would I rather have one of those pitchers I mentioned? No, I'm not really in on those pitchers being superior to a potential young offensive star like Caglione. Corey Seager, that might tempt me. So all I'm saying is, with all the hype that these prospects get, deservedly so, it doesn't always work out. And you know what? If he does something magnificent his first week as a Royal, just explore it. Just think about it. Dangle him out there. See if you can get a haul for him because somebody out there has got rookie fever and they're going to want it. And then you know what else I think is always worth exploring a sell high besides some very hyped up prospects? Closers. That's right. Just closers in general. Almost any closer is worth trading in the right situation. What is the right situation? Okay, well, look at your roster, look at the standings. Decide where you are in terms of saves. How crucial is it in your league? Right? Is this typical 5x5 league? Is it a points league? Do you use holds as well? Obviously, if it's a points league or a saves and holds league or just a deeper scoring system, that closer who's getting you saves isn't going to be as valuable. If you're already near the bottom of the standings in the saves category and you have a pretty good closer, just not much around him, you might just consider punting that category the rest of the season to improve your other categories. Or on the other hand, if for some reason you've been hoarding like 4 or 5 really good closers, or maybe you got a couple to start the season and you lucked out on the waiver wire and you were just dominating that category, deal from strength. Now, there are a few closers I'd say you probably should just hold on unless it's one of those extreme situations. So Robert Suarez, Josh Hader, Andres Munoz, Edwin Diaz, Emmanuel Clase, and I'll even throw Mason Miller in there because I still feel like he's going to be one of the best down the stretch. Other than that, if I have any closer that I didn't name on that list, I think they're fair game. And I know saying, well, you can always get saves from the waiver wire. Yeah, easier said than done. It doesn't always happen that way. But in some respect, it is true. You should at least be able to find some saves somewhere if you work the waiver wire right. But again, I just remember saves are just one category. And sometimes those fringe closers will hurt your ratios as much as they help you in saves. Never be afraid to sell high if the price is right. That's how it goes. And likewise, always be looking, always be asking, trying to buy low because you never know when you can get a player that you'd be surprised at. All right, so I did talk about Jack Caglione and some other prospects who got called up that, look, if they're out there, they're definitely worth picking up. So who else made the cut besides Cags? Check out this week's Beat the Breakout.